Amen. Okay, so the other moderator is Leslie. Leslie, is your face on there somewhere?
I'm right here.
Okay, great. So she's going to be the other moderator, and what we're going to do right now, I think, is I'd like to get to know people, and so maybe what we could do is just have everyone take, and I realize there's a lot of people, and we don't want to take all night, but maybe take a minute or two and just kind of tell us a little bit about you. I'm going to share my screen. There's a couple questions I was kind of thinking about. Let's see here. So maybe just tell us, your name, where you're located, then maybe answer one of these questions, or if you want to answer a different question, that's totally fine. So we could just start with, let's see, Ali Biermer. We're going to go with just based on order of who's in the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my name is Ali Vermeer. Not related to the famous painter. I'm located in Capelle aan den IJssel, which is a suburb of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. My expectations is that I'm more a lurker and a learner than a participant. And I decided that I could understand Isaiah a long time ago. When I first got the cassette tapes from Brother Gileadi, where he talks about Isaiah. At that time, I had a family with young children, so I couldn't really dive into it, and that's why I'm here now.
Awesome. Okay, Becca Broadbank. Now, if you don't like to talk, we got to try. So let's try.
Does she know to unmute her microphone?
Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. I got a little baby here, so I'm a little tied up. But so I'm Becca. I'm from Texas, Dallas, Texas, and I don't know that I really have any expectations. I'm just interested in. I've known about Abraham for probably 10 to 12 years now, which makes me sound like I'm well versed, but I don't feel like I am. And so I've read a lot of his books, and this, I think I'm just mostly interested in connecting with like-minded people and learning, maybe hopefully at a deeper level, or maybe some things that I haven't yet.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the things we're trying to do here in the Isaiah Institute is help people connect with like-minded people or whatever. I think that's great. Okay, Bob.
Okay, I live in Sandy, Utah with my wife, Linda. We've been married 57 years. We've gotten used to each other. We love each other very much. I've known Avraham since the early 90s when he was teaching seminars in local libraries and other places that we could get together. I've read all of his books and have quite a good understanding of them. I really appreciate Avraham's contributions to my love for and understanding of the prophecies of Isaiah. And this is a particularly good book that we are going to be addressing. It's very important, and I'm anxious to hear what we have to learn from this great book.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Next, we have Christina. Now, Christina and I are cousins, so I'm excited she's in the group. But go ahead, Christina.
Okay, I'm Christina. I'm Dax's cousin, and he introduced me to the Isaiah Institute and got me connected with the class. And I am located in Maryland, so I'm excited to just jump in and start learning.
Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, we got Dave Wested.
Hi, yeah, I'm Dave Winstead. I live in Arkansas, and last year I started to get interested in Isaiah and found some YouTube videos, and one of them was with Avraham, and I decided this is the guy that knows what he's talking about. And so I've started following him ever since, and I'm still learning.
That's great, Dave. I think I did the same thing. I have a whole thing, but yeah, similar. Where in Arkansas are you from?
I live in Jonesboro.
Okay, perfect. All right. And then Christy Watterson.
Yeah, sorry, I got an email and it had the link to the other class, and so I just
I did the same thing, Christy.
So I'm a little discombobulated here. So
That's
my
okay.
name is Christy Watterson, and I live in Wanship, Utah. And I'm hoping to gain a better understanding of Isaiah and some of the topics and things that I've been studying. And I've always just felt this pull that I needed to study Isaiah, and I'm excited for this opportunity.
Great. How long have you been studying?
Off and on between homeschooling and kids and health problems for a few years.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And Dina?
Yeah, I'm located in Nauvoo, Illinois, and I first heard about the Isaiah Institute when I saw Isaiah decoded the book on my mother-in-law's bookshelf, and I would see it many times, and I finally decided I would ask her if I could borrow it, and it was so enlightening. And then from then on, I just kept on listening and reading, and here I am in this discussion now.
Great. And how long have you been doing that as well?
I think it's been 8 or 9 years.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. And then Ebert?
Trying to get my camera on. There we go, I think. Can you see me?
Yep, we see you now.
All right. My name's Eric. I live in Tennessee. I've been studying Isaiah for a few years. I've participated in 4 or 5 of these book groups and have enjoyed them, and took a break for a few months after my most recent group disbanded, I guess. And so I today and thought I'd give this one a try.
Great, thank you. We're excited to have you. And then Fern Law, that's a cool name, Fern.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I live in Spring City, Utah, and have been studying just maybe over a year and a half, and I'm excited to learn.
Okay, great. Okay, and then Heather, I can't say your last name, Tykinson?
Dixon.
Okay.
I live in Flatwood Heights, just outside of Salt Lake City. Back in 2021, I just had the spirit just studying Isaiah, but I didn't know where to begin. It just so overwhelming, and so I kept putting it off. And then I happened to talk to my childhood friends about it, and she said, "Oh, you need to look at Avraham Gileadi." And so I went through his analytical commentary, like the podcast format. It was about 6 months. I listened and filled 3 notebooks. It was life changing. And yeah, so I've studied off this, but I want to dive deeper. I'm just excited about this group.
Great. Heather, your voice is kind of wavering in and out. I don't know if that's your Wi-Fi or microphone, but just something to be aware of.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Then Heather Dawn Gentry. I don't know if you go by Heather or.
Hi. I actually go by Donnie or Heather Dawn if someone likes all the syllables.
Okay.
I came across Abraham's Isaiah Decoded many years ago. I probably would describe myself as blissfully ignorant even to this day. Like every time I've read Isaiah, I thought I got it, and every time I read Isaiah Decoded, I thought I got it, and every time I've been in a class or another learning opportunity, I always think, well, I've got this, but then I learned 99% of the things I didn't know. So I'm excited, and I'm here in Saratoga Springs, Utah.
Okay, perfect. Jeannie Smith.
Yes. I'm Jeannie Smith, and I'm in Vernal, Utah.
Oh, perfect. So I'm from Roosevelt, actually.
Yeah, I know that. I had when I lived in Roosevelt, my roommate was Cindy Fish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know the Fishes.
Your old teacher. I've since retired, and she's since retired, but you know. I just remember her mentioning your name, and it's easy to remember your name because who has heard of that name before?
Well, I'm glad. It's nice to meet you. So I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah,
okay, so tell me where you're at right now.
I haven't been studying Isaiah very long, maybe since last fall, but I am a lifelong learner, and I like to know things. And so this is one of the things I'm really interested in.
Okay, that's awesome. And then Jeff Waddell.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Weddle. I live in George, Utah. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I've long been a researcher, but I was keenly aware when I read Isaiah, I had no idea what I was bothered with. And sometime in August or September of 23, I was looking for literature to help me understand Isaiah and came across Isaiah Decoded. Couldn't put it down. Read it like 3 times. Bought another Isaiah book, Prophecies of Isaiah, read that, gave it away. And the Kings and Queens book has been my favorite. I don't know how it had to be the Spirit. I've never read any other book outside of Scripture that reads like the Kings and Queens book. I've had 3 or 4 of them. I keep giving them away. So I've got one. I don't have one with me now. I've got 2 of them coming on order.
Well, that's the way to do it.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Okay. And then Joseph Cornahan? Cornahan, okay.
So I was first introduced to Abraham in the 80s, and I've been studying his books off and on for many years, many decades, but really kind of picked up the interest since COVID and made a commitment to really dive deeply. But I've been struggling with Isaiah for, 40 years. I'm from Oceanside, California. I'm an attorney, and I've really been enjoying studying Isaiah and all the publications of Abraham's. But I try to talk to people about it, and no one understands or even has an interest that I talk to. So, and I've never been in a group, so I thought, well, these people must be interested in talking about it. So I thought I would join a group and just kind of see and communicate with other people who love Isaiah and want to learn about it and love Abraham. And that's why I'm here.
Great. Well, we're excited to have you. Karen Fitch.
Hi.
like 36 years ago, I went into an LDS bookstore up in Spokane, and I walked out with all of Abraham's books, like every one that he'd written. I don't know, a handful of them, didn't find anything else. And so that was when I first started reading and learning about him. I was in a group just this last spring, really nice group, and I'm excited to read Kings and Queens. I haven't read that yet. I'm excited. I've got 6 kids. Most of them are active, and I've given them books and I can't get them to be excited about Isaiah. I don't understand why. Because I am. My husband died 4 years ago, so I'm a widow. I live up here in the mountains all by myself. But yeah, I'm excited to learn more and excited to be in the group.
Thanks, Karen. We're glad to have you too. Okay, Ken Moffat.
Yeah. Okay, Ken Moffat is my name. I'm located in Chula Vista, California. I was born in Belfast, Ireland, and still have family in Belfast, Ireland. And I became a Latter-day Saint when I was 15 and tracked out by the missionaries. And I went on a building mission when I was 16 and a half, a couple of years in New England, worked on a couple of state centers. We had to study every morning. We had an hour's reading at 7 o'clock. So I did that for about 28 months. Covered a lot of books in that time. And it was a statement of Nephi, this would be when I was about maybe 17, that had a pretty profound impact on me. And he said, you know, that I'm not more fully persuaded than believe in the Lord their Redeemer. I did read unto them that which was written by the prophet Isaiah. Of course, he had seen the Redeemer. So I believed that. So I'd actually had an interest in Isaiah for my whole life since I was about 17. And in 1990, I had a week to spare, and I went up and spent some time in Centerville, Utah. My wife's mom, her brother, and his wife put me up, and I spent the whole week just reading Isaiah. And I actually memorized the first 30 chapters of the book of Isaiah, the King James version, in that week, walking every day for 8 or 9 hours. Had my little scriptures with me in those days. And on that trip in 1990, I was in Deseret Book, downtown Salt Lake City, and someone pointed out one of Gileadi's works. And I read that, and that immediately resonated with me. So I've read everything that Gilead has written. I've met him. I spent a lunch with him on one of his seminars in 2018. My wife and I were at lunch with another group of out-of-towners. And he's a meek and lowly man. No question about that. He's a man of great meekness. And he's had a profound impact on my life. I'd say right up there with Isaiah himself, with Joseph Smith, and David O. McKay, who told me on a mission. So I just love reading and studying Isaiah. And you think this is kind of funny, but I actually memorized the whole book last year. I memorized all 66 chapters of the Gileadi translation. I've memorized about 50 of the King James over the years. I couldn't quote that verbatim now, but at that time I've got a chart of where I started. I started at 52. I just moved by word links that existed in my mind from one Isaiah chapter to the other. So it was all over the place. But I find Isaiah is a prophet of hope. And that's what Nephi says, that you might lift up your hearts and rejoice for all men. So there's a message in there that is for all men, and it's a message of hope and rejoicing. So I feel very close to the prophet Isaiah. I feel close to Gilead. And the last thing I'd say is I've actually had the witness of the Holy Ghost concerning the things I've read in Gilead. When I was doing that memorization, I said to Wendy, my wife, I'd say, Wendy, the Spirit of the Lord is distilling upon my soul. And one of the nice things is that she came to me about 6 weeks ago, and my wife Wendy did. She's a very diligent student of the scriptures, but she doesn't have a great memory. She'll read and forget things, but she came to me and said, Ken, is there something that I could read great gift she gave me when she asked me that. And I had a bunch of books. I've given a lot away. I've got it all on the phone now and on Word Puncher. But I gave her my favorite is the literary message of Isaiah. I've read that, I think, that 8 times. I got through that book. And she's almost finished it. She reads a little bit every day with her regular Book of Mormon scriptures. So the thing I'm looking to this group for is I know that everybody's got light and truth. Everybody in this group has got light and truth in their lives. And I'd like to get more of that from you. Maybe share some with you. Thanks for
Thank you, Ken. That was great. Next, we have Mary Wilson. Mary, are you there? Okay, we'll come back. Melinda. Melinda is also my cousin. I'm super excited to see her here too.
Hi, I'm Melinda Barnes. I live in Rexburg, Idaho, and I'm just excited to learn about Isaiah. I've been studying with Dax for about a year and a half now. Does that sound right? So I've read a few of Gileadi's books, and I've just been eating it up. So I'm excited to learn from all of you.
Thank you. Next we have, that's R. Brown. I don't know who that is.
Randy Brown.
Okay. Randy.
Hi, I'm Randy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I had kind of a spiritual awakening in 2020 when everything was falling apart, and was in Deseret Book and picked up a copy of Isaiah Decoded, and have not been able to stop searching Isaiah ever since. And 2 years ago started a podcast called Spiritual Survival, and much of the content is focused on Isaiah. And then 15 weeks ago added to that podcast a course called Searching Isaiah, and we're now 15 weeks into that, and just have had an incredible spiritual rebirth as the message and the vision of Isaiah have been opened to my eyes. And so yeah, I just anything I can learn about or talk about or teach about, I want to be a part of. And I wanted to be in the same group as Ken. Ken was in another book group I was in, and I was super impressed with him, so I'm glad he's here. Wanted to shout out to him. But yeah, thanks to everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Great. We're glad you're here too. Okay, now we have Sherry Blair. Am I saying that right, Sherry? Okay, we'll come back. Tammy Rather.
Hi. Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yes, I'm Tammy Rather, and I live in Talmadge, Utah, in the Uinta Basin.
Oh,
so
sweet.
We go shopping in Roosevelt and Vernal all the time. And when we really want to shop, we head out to Orem. Anyway, I've been reading these works for a number of years off and on. There's still a lot I don't comprehend. I'm a convert to the church. I joined when I lived in Massachusetts as a teenager, living there with my parents and brothers and sister. And anyway, I've always been surprised that the church in our Sunday school, we don't spend a lot of time on Isaiah. And I've always been puzzled and somewhat concerned about that. And I know it's important to study the words, and it's a commandment, and I really, really want to understand them. I feel like I'll be able to bring more a sense of peace and help my family be more grounded and prepared for the future by me being able to understand Isaiah better.
Tammy, when did you say you started studying Isaiah?
Well, I've been studying off and on for a number of years when I have a chance. I have quite a few of his books, and I like to read, you know, the little write-ups on the internet on the
newsletter.
I really enjoy those.
Great. Okay. Perfect. Thanks. Now we have Tim. Tim Cyberbolts. I can't say his name. Cybersky.
Hi, everybody. Tim Cebulski from Cincinnati, Ohio. About a decade, just over a decade ago, Jeff Weddle, who introduced himself earlier, we've been studying the gospel for about that time. And just a couple of years ago, he introduced me to Isaiah Decoded. Reading that book definitely changed my life in so many ways. The reason why I'm joining, anything that can help me strengthen my testimony and strengthen my relationship with the Savior, I'm all about that. And so I'm excited to learn with the saints. Looks like it's from all over the world. We have someone from outside the U.S., which is exciting. So just looking forward to learning with everybody.
Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go back just a couple. Sherry, Blair, are you around?
It's can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, good. It's Shari Gare. Similar to many of your stories, only I'm quite a bit younger than some of you. So it's been a couple of years. About 2 years ago, I was reading in 3rd Nephi, and Jesus Christ himself tells them how important it is for them to study Isaiah. And that hit me so strong. The Spirit hit me so strong that day, and I thought, gosh, I really have no clue. We don't really talk about Isaiah much. And just did a little bit of research. I found Gileadi. I listened to his whole analytical commentary and watched the 7 vignettes, and I was hooked. I just could not believe this was out there. It was so inspiring. I could feel the Spirit so strongly just burning in my soul. I also want to say, Dax, that I grew up with the Gers. There's Mal Gur in Apache Junction, Arizona. So I don't know if he's related to you, but
I think there was a breakup somewhere clear back in the day, but no.
Okay. But I'm from Pima, Arizona. Just moved to Arizona from actually the Nauvoo Steak. So Dina, it's fun to hear that you're here. And Randy Brown, I love your podcast.
Okay, we have one more. Mary Wilson. Do we have you somewhere?
I do. I just had to find where to turn the microphone on and off.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, my name is Mary Wilson. I am located in Cody, Wyoming. Currently serving as a service missionary for Family Search, working kind of behind the scenes with lab projects in the communities and different things like that. I have studied Isaiah off and on as I've taught seminary and gospel doctrine. I'm a convert to the church. And I just thought it would be great. And I came across the Isaiah Institute not too long ago. I thought it'd be great to do an in-depth study on Isaiah and see where it takes me.
Perfect. Thank you. Leslie, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Leslie Tanner, and I live in Mount Pleasant, Utah. I've probably been studying Isaiah since 2020, and I love it and love the scriptures. And I think I met Dax briefly there, and I did a deep search on all things of the gospel, not just Isaiah. But now I've come back to just studying Isaiah, and I'm just excited to participate. So.
Perfect. Okay. So my name is Dax Gurung in Ogden, and I actually on my mission read Christ's admonition to study the words of Isaiah, and I remember just like staring at the screen in utter frustration at my inability to understand anything that was being said. And so when I heard Abraham many years later talking in a podcast, I kind of did the same thing you all did and jumped on the Isaiah train. So I started volunteering and just doing different things, and I guess if you stick around long enough, they put you in places you're not comfortable with. So I'm really excited to meet you guys. I have to admit I'm a little nervous. It sounds like we have some people who are very familiar with things, and I'm excited to be able to learn from you guys. I also feel very inadequate, so you're gonna have to be patient with me. And but I'm excited to be here. I'm here to just do what I can to, I guess. Anyway, okay. So just some real quick groundkeeping rules, just kind of um, some things you guys need to be aware of. The first is this: we're kind of in the middle of an AI pilot project, and I really don't like AI, but it is make things convenient, and so we're trying to broaden the message of Isaiah and introduce as many people as possible. And so you're probably going to be inundated with emails, and there's going to be snafus, and there's just going to be issues. So if you have any questions or whatever, please feel free to email me, or you can call me or text me. I don't care, whatever. I'm going to put my number and email address on an email, and I'll send it to you after I'm done. What I've done in the past is I've sent basically like a end note of here's what we talked about, here's some things we didn't know and we were going to look up the answer to. And so we'll just probably send you one of those emails at the end of the class, or like a couple of days later or whatever. Please feel confident and comfortable to speak. Like don't hesitate. We all want to hear everyone's voice, and so it's important that you're here. We're not here to lecture. I don't want to lecture. I think it's important to have a conversation as opposed to like you guys are all smarter than me anyway, so let's have a conversation. There are going to be some things that we are going to talk about that might be a little uncomfortable for people. Hopefully, if you have any questions or whatever, you can feel free to ask the question. But this is a safe place. We have to realize that there are varying levels, and also people are in different. They might understand things differently, and their understanding might be wrong. So you just have to be aware that it's a safe space. Let's all discuss ideas without being judgmental and condemning anyone, or losing our testimony or whatever because someone said something crazy. So just keep that in mind. Also, there's been issues in the past where someone's tried to convince different members of the group, and that's not the goal. Your goal is to present your idea, and then that's that. Right? We're not trying to convince anyone of anything. Also, don't take offense when someone says something that you're not comfortable with. To kind of limit some of that stuff, that speculation, Abraham always says, if you can't show it in the scriptures, then just don't say it. So I kind of like to stick to that. Although if you can nuance something or show it a little bit, let's hear your ideas. It kind of goes without saying that we don't want to disparage anyone or any institution. We're here to learn and not tear anyone down. Whether that's in the group or out of the group or whatever, we just keep everything as positive as possible. Also, sometimes this goes for the moderators too. If you guys hear us talking too much, or you feel like we're blathering too much, then please don't hesitate to send me an email. I like to talk when I get nervous, so I probably will talk a lot, but I'll try to limit that. But if you find yourself talking more than 2 or 3 people combined, maybe it's time to pull back a little bit. But also, if you have something important to say, then don't hesitate to say it. Avoid collecting people. We don't want to have anyone trying to, gather email addresses and collect their own group or whatever. We don't want that. And then I think we kind of discussed what do we want out of the discussion a little bit, so we're going to move on. Okay.
So, Dax, are we recording? Did you want to record?
That's a good question. How do I do that? Let's see. I think this is recording.
Oh, okay.
Actually, let's see. I'm trying to remember where to record on Google Meet. Does anyone?
I know how to do it on Zoom. I do not know how to do it on Google Meet.
Yeah, this is a new thing for us too, so we're kind of learning. I guess we'll just move forward. Actually, I'm going to just Google that. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing this, so we're just going to move ahead. All right. So in the scriptures, I noticed something as I was reading this introductory chapter. I noticed something, and that is there's a lot of talk about plants in the scriptures. And so, why do you guys think that God talks so much about plants in the scriptures? What is that? Why is that a tool that he uses? Let's just talk about it for a minute. This is just quick answers. Like we don't want to talk for an hour long. Let's just give some quick kind of warm up answers. What do you guys think? Why does he talk about plants?
We can understand the concept of plants.
Okay. How do you think? Why is that?
You have your planting, and then you have slow growth, and then you have your harvest. It's just something we've done for a long time.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah, plants are common. You observe them everywhere. We eat them, use them for all kinds of things, and they're metaphor for people.
Perfect. Okay, Allie?
Just like plants, we as people need to be nurtured.
That's right. Any other thoughts on plants? Why he uses plants?
The Jews were expert in horticulture. I mean, in watching some of these diagrams and the way the plants grow and how they work, understanding horticulture made it a lot easier for me. So if they were expert in it, that would just be a manner of how they prophesy.
Yeah, I think it's important too because we recognize that God speaks to people at their level, and so historically the level has been plants. People don't think about plants like we used to, but we still recognize how it works and how plants, how they function, and so. But up until the last 50 years or even less, everyone understands plants. So I think that's probably part of it too.
We can't forget the grapevines and the olive trees either.
And why do you say that?
Well, there's parables about grapevines. There's the olive tree discourse by Jacob, the brother of Nephi, that talks about the house of Israel. It's very in-depth. You can get as deep as you want to get by talking about the olive trees or the olive trees or the grapevines.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. And then the next question I have is, what else can be represented by plants? As we're talking about this.
Well, faith.
Okay. Excellent. And we see that in Illinois, right? What else?
People.
People. Okay. So we have people and faith. What else?
Our testimonies and conversion.
Okay, perfect. I was thinking of ideas, but testimonies are great. Yeah.
They're also seasonal, so there's a time for plants.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, for example, the fig tree being watching the leaves of the fig tree for the second coming.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, so we have these different ideas, and that was one of the things that came up with me was, as I was reading this chapter, or the introduction, I kept thinking about, in Isaiah, how does Isaiah define the wicked in terms of plants?
Tares.
Okay.
They're vines that produce bad fruit. Sour grapes when they're supposed to produce grapes.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
And these plants, especially in comparison to the wicked and the righteous, have to be separated. They have to be one pulled out, the other removed.
Anything else? Okay, so there are multiple places where we hear about plants and representing ideas, but as I was reading this, I was thinking about the fact that plants can represent, especially even in Isaiah, it can represent a multiple layers within a construct. So if you have a person, and the person is the garden, and the garden can be ideas, it can be thoughts, and there can be weeds growing in the garden, there can be fruit growing in the garden. There's all these different things growing within an individual person. That can also translate into a community. So you have when the people are wicked, when the Lord's people are wicked, then it's kind of a barren garden, and that's kind of what I was thinking of here. You kind of have this; it's all dried up, and there's weeds and all this stuff. So that's what the Lord's garden looks like. But that also can be what our mind can look like as we adopt these weeds and allow them to grow in our mind. Then we create this kind of weedy garden, and that weedy garden becomes a stumbling block to progression because there's no fruit there. I don't know how many of you guys have, whatever. There's just no fruit. It's just weeds. And even if we see a weed that looks pretty, it's still a weed. It has no fruit. So, but that can translate. That can iterate into multiple dimensions. So you look at the individual person. You look at the individual community. You look at the world. Like the whole thing is just this big, like circle within circle of what that looks like. But it starts with what? Where is the beginning of the garden? It's the individual plant.
Oh, okay.
So the individual plant is the person. So as we think about this, we have to realize that we are the garden. We have to continue to weed our garden. And that's kind of what I was thinking as I was reading through that. So let's read this. This is in Doctrine and Covenants 84, 54 through 58. Someone read this?
I'll read.
Okay, go ahead.
All of it?
Yeah.
And your minds in times past have been darkened because of unbelief, and because you have treated lightly the things you have received, which vanity and unbelief have brought the whole church under condemnation. And this condemnation resteth upon the children of Zion, even all. Or resteth, upon the children of Zion, even all. And they shall remain under this condemnation until they repent and remember the new covenant, even the Book of Mormon and the former commandments which I have given them, not only to say, but to do according to that which I have written, that they may bring forth fruit meet for their Father's kingdom. Otherwise there remaineth a scourge and judgment to be poured out upon the children of Zion.
Okay, so what are the weeds in this commentary?
Unbelief and vanity.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then what's the fruit, obviously?
Belief and humility are the opposite of vanity. Vanity means emptiness. So an empty garden and I guess a full garden. And Benson used this statement, I think, in '86. And he said, that scourge and judgment, he said, we felt that scourge. So at that time, 1986, this was prior, he called the church, the Latter-day Saints, to repentance as a people. And apparently, in 1986, as a people, we were not bringing forth fruit meat for our Father's kingdom.
Okay, so that's right. So I guess the next question I have is, what is unbelief and what is vanity? And I think Ken hit a little bit with what vanity is, but I think there's more to it than just what he's saying there. And so let's look at this. And this is, I don't want to do like a scripture chase, but let's start with the weeds. So as I was kind of reading Abraham's chapter, the precepts of men are kind of the main weeds. Like they're the, we think we're basically growing a garden of weeds. We don't realize it because the weeds are, it's like they're small. They're just little weeds right now. Or we're so used to them. Even if they're big, we're like, well, they've always been there. They're the weeds. Or they're the garden, even though there's no fruit. There's no, salvation comes from Christ, but there's no exaltation. We're not fulfilling, and we're not coming out from underneath this condemnation that started clear back in whatever this was. So we have to realize that there are weeds in the garden, and we need to be able to kind of root them out and figure out what they are. So part of the problem is we read the scriptures and we just read this, but we don't really understand what the words mean. We kind of put it in context and we say, well, like these people are being bad, they were being bad. We don't know what that means. Why is there a condemnation? And I think that's an important part of studying Isaiah, is because he helps to identify some of these words so that we can help, so we can understand them better ourselves and try to root them out. This is what the weed looks like, right? So, okay, so the precepts of men. What are the precepts of men? Does anyone have any thoughts on what the precepts of men are? How do we define precepts of men?
Untruths. It is a mindset which is not correct. We've had precepts in the church for a long time. And whenever you get stuck in a precept, it's hard to get dislodged from that. But when we can, then we can bear the fruit of having a Zion mindset. And that's the fruit that is the ultimate product of a righteous tree, like in the parable of the olive tree in Jacob chapters 5 and 6. When the tree bears fruit, that means they have established Zion.
In Jacob 5, he talks about, maybe we should pull that up. Thank you. Never mind. In Jacob 5, he talks about there being some fruit right at the initiation of when the gospel comes forth. So, First Nephi 13:34 says, "And much of my gospel will come forth." So let's read that real quick. So this right here, he's basically saying there's going to come a time when the Gentiles will receive, because the Lord's merciful, the Gentiles are going to receive, because the plain and precious parts have been removed, the Lord will be merciful unto the Gentiles into that day, and I will bring forth unto them much of mine own power, much of my gospel, which shall be plain and precious. So much of my gospel is going to come forth at the time of Joseph Smith. And if we look at when that happened in the allegory of the olive tree, there is a little bit of fruit that comes forth, right? You guys remember that?
Jacob 5?
Yeah. So, I can't remember the verse. It's like, I hate doing the scripture sort of thing, but Jacob 5, he basically says there's going to be much of the gospel that, let's see. Yeah, I don't want to look for it, but basically he says there's some fruit that comes forth right at the time that much of my gospel is brought forth. So my question to you is, what brings forth the fruit? Why is the fruit brought forth at that time? Because I don't know that I know the answer. What do you guys think? Because it doesn't happen again until the end time.
I'll share my thought on this and then I'll be quiet.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The fruit, as I see it, when you partake of the fruit of the tree of life, that's knowing it. In this condemnation, in my opinion, and if I offend anybody, I apologize now. I think the coming out from under this condemnation is for somebody somewhere, and eventually many, hopefully of us, to have a Brother Jared experience. I think that is bearing fruit, a personal manifestation in Jesus Christ himself where you know him. You can see him. He picks you up off the ground, off his feet, and you can see him like in 3rd Nephi. You can feel the prints of the nails in his hands and in his feet, know and bear witness. I think that's the fruit. And I think, and if you think too deeply into that, yes, I know that can get interesting, but I believe in my mind that's what I'm seeing is the fruit.
So Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that a lesser version of that is also acceptable, which would be a connection to the Spirit, just having, maybe not have ascended to that point, but just being connected? Is that part of the knowing?
Well, the knowing, and I'm not.
Would you include that in fruit or no?
I'm not a Hebraist, but the word know in Hebrew means personally, touch. And the fruit, if you see the way when they line up the celestial traveling up that path, to progress into the terrestrial area through baptism, and then when you move in Isaiah to the son's servant level, that's when you know him. That, in my mind, as I see, is partaking of the fruit. But what you're saying, yes, is how we advance along the path until he accepts our sacrifice and we see him.
I think that's great, Jeff. Any other thoughts on that?
I have a thought. So going back to section 84 that we just read, the reference in 57 is that we're under condemnation until we repent and remember the new covenant, even the Book of Mormon, and the former commandments. So the fruit, one of the potential ways of looking at it, is that the fruit are covenants that we make and that are revealed. And the plain and precious things that have been removed are the knowledge of the covenants that have been restored now. And so the pathway forward is to partake of the fruit or partake of the covenants, which then allow us to progress through the phases that we need to in order to return to our Heavenly Father.
Thank you, Joseph. Anyone else? Yeah, I think Jeff's right because, I think all of you are right, but I think what Jeff said is relevant because it's been a long time since I've read this chapter and studied Jacob chapter 5, but he specifically says in this there was fruit that was brought forth when much of the gospel, not in those words, but when much of the gospel came forth, there was fruit. But there hasn't been since because or at least there's not a large amount because there's no, anyway. But I also think that the idea of the relevant sacrifice, when Christ talks to the people and he says, basically, he who loses his life for my sake shall find it. I think that's relevant. I think that's not hyperbole. He's saying, basically, if you want eternal life, you have to sacrifice everything. And I think that's what the saints did.
Another question. Okay, Jeff. Okay, so there's a lot of hoop-de-doo about near-death experiences, right? As being kind of a coming closer to God consciousness. And I'm wondering, where does that all fit in?
I have opinions on that, but I don't know that there's scriptural base to really go into that. I'll share with you, we were in a bad motorcycle accident. My wife had an experience. I think when we experience him here, if we experience him in spirit, I think that's probably us going somewhere. When he manifests himself to you in the flesh, he'll do something where you'll be able to look at him and touch him and see him. Like, I mean, Joseph Smith describes these experiences he had, the brother of Jared, the Nephites after the resurrection. I mean, the apostles. I mean, this is, in my opinion, is what I see as the goal and partaking of the fruit and what happens. All those things, yes, he connects with us in so many ways. And everybody's different. And how he connects, as Dax was saying, how he connects with Dax may be different than me, or the words he uses, or the imagery he uses to explain personal revelation to you would be different. This to me is the fruit, but all those connections lead you to the fruit, to him.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can, I'm going to share this with you guys. Let's see, as I kind of muddle through. Okay, so you have to follow it. It's obviously hard to understand. It's hard to follow it, but this is, I think he's talking about our day here. He says, now behold, notwithstanding all the care which we have taken of my vineyard, the trees thereof have become corrupted, that they may bring forth no good fruit. And these I had hoped to preserve, to have laid up fruit thereof against the season unto mine own self. But behold, they have become like unto the wild olive tree, and they are of no worth but to be hewn down and tossed in the fire. And it grieveth me that I should lose them. So this is, I mean, I think he's talking about our day. I mean, you guys have to do your own research, but that's my take on what that is. So I don't know. Anyway, okay. Any other thoughts on that?
I have a thought about that, and the fruit as it relates to Jacob chapter 5. I've always thought that the fruit were converts into the church. He talks about the servants, the missionaries that are going out and reaping a harvest of members of the church, bringing back God's children to him so that he can lay that up for store. That's what I've always thought.
Any other thoughts? Now remember, I don't have all the answers. Neither no one does. So we're just kind of throwing around ideas.
I think all of those are fruits.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's right. That's a good point. But the fruit, okay, so the fruit that God wants though is that fruit that he's talking about. And I don't know. I think what Jeff's saying might be important. But okay. Let's see. So this flipping back and forth is kind of a pain, but I'm going to just go ahead and do it like that. Okay, so this is one definition of precepts of men. Does someone want to read this, verse 7?
I can read it.
Okay, go ahead.
You're commanded in all things to ask of God, to give it liberally, and that which the Spirit testifies unto you, even so I would that ye should do in all holiness of heart, walking uprightly before me, considering the end of your salvation, doing all things with prayer and thanksgiving, that ye may not be seduced by evil spirits, or doctrines of devils, or the commandments of man, for some are men, some of others of devils.
Okay, so we have these weeds that have kind of popped up, within the church or whatever. And so that's kind of what they are. They're the precepts of men, devils or doctrine of devils, or word of man, or whatever. So we don't really know what those are, and I'm not going to talk about. Like these are things you could write down. You could keep a journal. Maybe start discovering some of the things that might be considered a precept of men. I mean, for example, I'll just throw this one out there because the church has already acknowledged that. priesthood and blacks, they basically said that they don't that doctrine was not correct. So that's one that would be considered a precept of men. And okay, so where are they found? That's another question. Where are these precepts of men found?
I'd say everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say that same thing, that I think because of our weakness as humans, that every single religion will get mixed up because we start making traditions. There's a lot of dogma. So I like to think of there's religion and then there's relationship, and they're two different things. And I personally believe that as we come closer to Zion, the religious boundaries will go down, and we'll learn true worship of the Lord, and we'll be more focused in the pure relationship over this religion or that religion or this dogma.
Any other thoughts? That's good. Sorry.
I think that's good.
Obviously, it's everywhere. Like that's probably the best answer. You know that it's everywhere. We see that in. So okay, so I guess a question I have is, why is that a problem for members of the church? I don't know. Like, there's probably people in this group that aren't members of the church, so I'm not. Why is it, if you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, why is that a problem?
I think it's a problem because a lot of people share their ideas and preach it, and then people take that as that must be the gospel, that must be truth, without thinking maybe I should check this out. If it's passed around enough, then it becomes a mainstay in the culture of the religion. And it twists things up, and like for me, as you know, I'm almost 50, there's been many things that I thought were the gospel. It's not, because of extra digging into things and looking at the origin of things and trying to understand why those things were said.
That's good. I think that's right. And I think the problem with that is that so then here's another question. As for members of the church specifically, so you've kind of identified it, but if you don't do the digging, why is that a problem? So if you had decided, okay, I'm going to just take the word of so-and-so and just do whatever, why is that a problem?
It's a problem because that becomes a stumbling block to our finding the truth. And a precept of men, I can give you an example. Way back in the 30s, when LeGrand Richards wrote Marvelous Work and a Wonder, and he interpreted Isaiah chapter 5 wrongly, and when he said that the missionaries and the converts were the ones who were riding on airplanes and trains in the latter days when they were being gathered to Zion. And that precept was believed for years and years, decades and decades, and until actually Abraham came on the scene and correctly translated or interpreted Isaiah chapter 5 for us to relate the truth about what was really being said in Isaiah chapter 5.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can actually, I can concur with that, because I was asked to teach the Book of Mormon in an institute setting a few years ago. And when I came to 2 Nephi 15, which is Isaiah chapter 5, and I read the manual, and I thought to myself, I can't teach this. That's false doctrine. I actually wrote a letter to the stake president. I never posted the letter. I thought, you're not really good for writing this letter yet. So I never did, but I didn't. I was totally. When I would read that, I read those statements, read chapter 5, it talks about a destroying army. You know, it literally talks about the devastating scourge, an army just wiping everything off the face of the earth. And I thought to myself, you know, are missionaries lions prowling on the prey? Do they carry arrows and bows and shotguns and missiles? No, it's totally backward. It's in the manual. I found a lot of stuff in the manual that I would say maybe not directly false, but just missed the mark. Aims in the wrong direction, and you follow it, and you follow it through, you don't get anywhere. It doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead to the truth. So I concur with that exactly what you said. And, I find that when you really study Isaiah, I find I describe my life as being on two tracks. At the gospel track, because I'm an active member of the church, I love the church. I pay my tithing, I serve in the church, I've done that for 60 years, I serve mission after mission. Then there's my Isaiah track, kind of a private track. I can talk to one or two people about it. But the deep and wonderful things in Isaiah, because Isaiah is a parable of the eternities. You can go as deep as the depth of eternity. You can go as high as the heights of eternity. It takes you into eternity. I remember as a boy reading D&C section 76, it says that even the wonders of eternity shall they know. Things to come will I show them. At this point in my life, I've sought that all my life, and I'm beginning to find that. And they are wonders. And also, just one other thought is that Isaiah permeates the scriptures. I recently, last year, I read all of the epistles of Paul. I love Paul also. I read everything that Paul wrote from Acts all the way through Hebrews. I find about 500 references in Paul's writings to Isaiah. And most of them are not good noted, but 500 of them. So all of the doctrine of Paul comes out of Isaiah. This is also true of John, the Gospel of John. Not only the Gospel, but the Revelations. And so I just find Isaiah permeates everything. Just one interesting little tidbit is you look at section 1, chapter 1, verse 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants. The second half of verse 1 is a direct quote from Isaiah 49:1. The introduction to the Doctrine and Covenants comes from Isaiah 49:1. So, same thing, find about 500 references in the Doctrine and Covenants to Isaiah. And so, it's like what Jesus said, he expounded all the scriptures in one. And I think when you begin to understand Isaiah, you begin to bring the whole great picture together in your mind.
I have to agree with Ken. You know, my journey with Isaiah, I feel is giving me eyes to see in ways that I've never seen before. And it's like you can take one verse in Isaiah, and as you analyze it and search and connect the linking words, and you know, you begin to see things throughout the scriptures that you never saw before, at a level that you've never seen them before, and you begin to feast upon the greater things. And I kind of feel like I'm living two lives as well. It's like one is kind of like trying to still live the law of Moses when you've been born again in Christ. You know, when you start having experiences where your eyes are open to the greater things, and you know, maybe in Sunday school you're still, you know, kind of only getting the lesser things. It's kind of difficult. But it's a glorious thing, and you know, Millie Maxwell said that for those who will have eyes to see, it becomes evident that the Lord is giving away the secrets of the universe. And you know, that's the journey I want to be on, and I think Isaiah is absolutely the key to that.
Awesome. Okay, so all those things are really important, but what are the final effects, according to Isaiah? What are the effects of all these precepts of men?
I'd like to say the precepts of men become what we believe. We don't know it. It becomes part of like I can't remember who it was. The sister was saying it becomes part of our belief systems, part of our religion. So these things are false beliefs, and it's like a puzzle, and you've got the wrong piece of puzzle plugged in by rejecting the truth of what should be in that vector that your false beliefs in. You're rejecting truth. I mean, that's Alma 12, and rejecting light and truth is the definition of what hardens hearts. But the searching, the sister is for the searching and the understanding and being able, because it's hard, to remove the false belief, replace it with the correct belief, and add light. That is this path. And whenever we accept light, we get more. But daggone, we got to let go of them false beliefs. That can be easier said than done. And there's things we put up on a shelf that we don't deal with right away, so we can keep moving. But man, everything we put on the shelf, we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
Well, I think sometimes too, as a new convert, one of the things I noticed was it was difficult to sometimes separate culture and tradition from doctrine. And when we really focus on the doctrine of the church, then some of that culture and tradition becomes irrelevant. And even sometimes those weeds that you talked about.
Oh, go ahead, Melinda.
I was just going to say, as I think about this, I think the precepts of men are steeped in iniquity. So, if you think about iniquity being the truth that has been skewed to be what man wants it to be, that's what the precepts of men are. And the problem with that is that, like what Abraham Gileadi says here in the book, is that it becomes to a point where we do not recognize Jesus Christ for who he is. And as he reveals, he says, as he makes bare his arm, we will not recognize that this is him and his work and the things that he is bringing to us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I was trying to point out right here. This is in Doctrine and Covenants 45. Let's see. Oh yeah, 48 or 28. And when the times of the Gentiles come in, a light shall break forth among them that sit in darkness, and it shall be the fullness of the gospel, my gospel. But they receive it not, for they perceive not the light, and they turn their hearts from me because of the precepts of men. So that's the culmination of all these precepts that we've been talking about, according to what the Doctrine and Covenants says. Okay, so there's a word that you hear throughout the Book of Mormon, and it's unbelief. And I think that's an interesting word. What do you guys think that means? Unbelief. Let's read this in Helaman 6. I really don't like how this is doing it, but I'm going to just go like this. Oops. Okay, so this verse right here, this is one I just discovered, so I was going to share it with you guys. But okay, someone want to read that? Yeah, 20 people, 25 people. Come on, guys.
I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead, man.
Thus we see that the Nephites do begin to dwindle in unbelief, and grow in wickedness and abominations, while the Lamanites begin to grow exceedingly in the knowledge of their God. Yea, they do begin to keep his statutes and commandments, and to walk in truth and uprightness before him.
Okay. So we have this word unbelief, and I was kind of looking at it. I didn't dig too much into it, but this kind of looks like an antithetical parallelism. Am I saying that right? Am I looking at this right? You guys tell me what you think. So unbelief, let's see, kind of coordinates, and I don't know if this is the truth. I don't know if this is just my thought, but unbelief kind of coordinates with grow exceedingly in the knowledge of their God. So the opposite of grow exceedingly in the knowledge of their God would be unbelief. And I also was thinking about the fact that when when culture or religion or whatever changes from truth to false religion, people don't stop believing. They don't have like no belief. They just believe the wrong things or that. So my thinking is unbelief is sort of like um, a precept of men. It may be even more like a garden of precepts of men. So maybe a precept of men might be one false understanding, but unbelief might be multiple or kind of growing amounts of precepts of men.
Could
So what
it
do you think about that?
could it be related to hardness of heart?
Okay.
Because Layman and Lemuel, the definition was they would not ask.
So what do you guys think about that?
They said that he makes no such thing known unto us.
Go ahead, Christy.
I also think it comes down to pride. When people start thinking they know better than God how things should go.
Okay, maybe. Okay, that's good. When you say better than God, what does that mean to you?
I think just people start thinking that they know how everything works and runs and their way's better than God's ways and they're in a different plane.
Yeah. So if someone has a hard heart, what does that mean? Do you guys know? Like, what's a scriptural definition of what that means? Leslie's right. It talks about it right here. Specifically, he says,
Yeah, the Lord maketh no such thing known unto us.
Yeah.
Verse 9.
Yeah, so he asked
the Lord.
Sorry, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah. Have ye inquired of the Lord? And they said unto me, we have not, for the Lord maketh no such thing known unto us.
Yeah, so Christy, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
So Christy's right. Basically, you think that you know more than God, and then you're not willing to ask. So
kind of a carnal security. You think you've done enough. You think you're saved. You think the ordinances are a one and done. Right?
Melinda?
I was just going to say, this reminds me of verse 3 in our readings in chapter 1 of Isaiah, where he talks about, I have reared sons, brought them up. Oh, sorry, wrong one. But Israel does not know. My people are insensible. And I just was thinking about that today and thinking, if you're insensible, you cannot sense, you cannot feel the Spirit, you cannot feel the light of Christ. An example of being insensible is like the earth is rotating all of the time, but we don't feel that. We don't necessarily notice that. And that's when somebody is of unbelief, that's where they're at. They are insensible. They aren't able to see that there's something that they're missing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Like, can you imagine if you would have told someone that lived, 1,000 years ago that the earth was spinning at some astronomical speed and moving through like they would have just had no concept of what you were talking about. Okay, anyone else have any thoughts?
Well, there's a common refrain when I talk to someone perhaps about the gospel that may not be that familiar with the church or the gospel, and it's, well, they'll state, well, that's your truth, and I have my truth, and my truth is not your truth, and they seem to try to build a wall around accepting anything new or having the desire to learn the truth of the gospel because they're fixed in their position, and they tell themselves that they have proof, but are unwilling to seek any further. It's kind of an interesting, and I hear that statement all the time, and it drives me crazy because I don't see how you really can progress if you're not willing to listen to someone else's position, and you're always saying, well, that's your truth, and I have my truth, so there really isn't any truth. And so Isaiah is so key to bringing you in a position personally where you know and can know the truth and be confident in it. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Leslie said something I really appreciated too. You said carnal security, and I think that is for me personally, dealing with some things I'm dealing with. That's a definite an issue for sure. We like to know what we know. We don't like to have any. We don't like to question it. So that's exactly that. Okay, so I think unbelief. Just to kind of reiterate, I think unbelief means more than just I don't believe. Although it probably means that to some extent too. Like maybe I don't believe in Joseph Smith, or I don't believe in Jesus Christ, or whatever I don't believe. But also, there are beliefs. Like I believe in science, or I believe in whatever. Like those things are like unbelief is more than just not believing. And then vanity. What do you guys think about vanity? We talked about this initially. What do you think vanity is? That's an interesting word too. This one is a good scripture I found. Does someone read this one? How about Heather? Will you read that?
Yes. Which verse?
Verse 15, 2 Kings 17:15.
1 Nephi 15 is on the screen, guys.
Okay, let's see. There you go.
Yes, and they rejected his statutes and his covenants that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged them that they should not do like them.
Okay, so guys, what do you think that vanity means in this reference?
Going after the heathen.
Yeah, basically, like what kind of came to my mind was, the Joneses. I got to keep up with the Joneses, right? So the heathen's doing this, so I got to do that too. That's an issue.
I have a definition, and I'm just looking in the dictionary here. It says vanity, excessive pride in or admiration of one's own appearance or achievements, or the quality of being worthless or futile. And that comes back to what you were saying about unbelief. I mean, if you believe a lie, it's futile. If you believe the precept of men, you're going to miss the mark. No matter how much you follow it, no matter how diligently you follow it, often leads you to the place you want to be. That's different. I love Isaiah